I was present in the delivery room, early part of the 7th month of the pregnancy, to witness the birth of Kristen. And Kristen had that eerie cry. A nurse immediately took Kristen out of the room. Another nurse came back into the room and said that Kristen needed to be flown to another hospital. We were at the time living in a small town, Galesburg, Illinois, and Kristen was to be flown to Peoria, Illinois, about 45 miles away. And both Kathy and I had jobs where we could take off some time, and each of us decided to take off the next 7 weeks to be with Kristen at St. Francis Hospital in Peoria. As each week went by, it seems as though we were informed of something else that was wrong with our daughter. Kristen was born with several malformations. She had 4 kidneys rather than 2, misshaped heart, brain damage, several external deformities as well. And during the 7th week, we were approached by a physician, a great physician, a cardiologist named Dr. Albers. And he informed us that Kristen needed to have open heart surgery. This was in 1972 in Peoria, Illinois. They had had at that hospital 8 open heart surgeries previous to that, all on adults, none on children. Had never even imagined doing open heart surgery on an infant that weighed 4 pounds, as Kristen did. But Dr. Albers was very honest with us. He said the operation would have only a 5% chance of being successful. But without the operation, Kristen would die within the next week or 2. And we felt we had to take the chance of that operation, and we gave permission. After we gave permission, Dr. Albers said something very important to us. He said, you know, touch has a wonderful healing quality to it. And the reason why those words were so important to us, remember this is 1972. Up until that day, we had not been allowed to touch our daughter. We had had to look at her through a glass wall the entire 7 weeks. And imagine you're watching your child die, but you're not allowed to touch. Dr. Albers said that he was going to arrange something, and he said he was going to probably get in a lot of trouble for doing it. But he was going to arrange that the night before the operation, Kathy, Kristen, and we would have a room in that hospital, and we would be able to hold our daughter. And he said that in the morning, he would come to the room. He would once again ask us if we wanted to have the operation, and if we said yes again, he would want us to physically place our daughter from our arms into his. That night, we held Kristen, and we held her the entire night, and we talked to her. We told her about all the dreams we had for her. We told her about all the love we felt for her. We did a lot of crying, but we held her the whole night. And in the morning, Dr. Albers came to the room and he asked us again, and we said yes. And he held out his arms, and we put our daughter into his arms, and we had to wait. And we waited in this waiting room for 3 hours, knowing that Dr. Albers was going to come out of these elevator doors. The doors finally opened. He came out with a bounce in his step, and he came over and he said, a miracle has occurred. She made it, and she'll be up soon. And we started crying out of joy. But another hour passed. She was still not up with us. The doors opened again. He came out slowly. He said her heart had stopped. They had opened her up again. He did not know what lied ahead. He was not optimistic, and she would be up soon. They brought Kristen up. Kathy and I looked at Kristen, we looked at one another, and we did not have to say anything to realize that we both knew she wasn't going to be with us much longer. But they put her into the glass room again, and we were on the outside, couldn't even see her. She was surrounded by adults. There was some commotion. We saw some blood on some of the gowns. Commotion stopped, and we knew what had happened. Kathy and I went and sat down on this couch. Each of the adults left the room until the last person out of the room, Dr. Albers. He came over to us. He knelt in front of us. He held our hands, and he said, "We have lost our daughter, Kristen," and he cried with us. This was a great physician, a great physician. What made him great? Those important qualities: congruence, empathy, and unconditional positive regard. Congruence. This was a real person. This was not somebody hiding behind a title or a uniform. He was real, congruent. Empathy. He even spoke of our daughter. He felt our pain. He cried with us. Unconditional positive regard. He was working with people, and he was willing to alter rules and regulations to meet the needs of the people. Unconditional positive regard. Because of those qualities and because of that touch, healing came about. And let me talk about some of the healing. We thought that because we had read a lot, Kristen would be intelligent. Kristen was born brain damaged, yet we learned more from that brain damaged child than from any college professor we ever had, from any book we had ever read. That brain damaged child taught us much. We thought she would be beautiful. She was labeled deformed, yet I have not seen a more beautiful child. And all of you that are parents, when we see our first child come into the world, there's nothing that can beat the beauty of that. We thought she'd be well behaved. We later learned from 2 other children. We learned if you have a child that you can hold, if you have a child that you can love, behavior is way below those 2, way below. The healing came about by those qualities of congruence, empathy, and unconditional positive regard. And when we have those qualities, we create an atmosphere whereby people can grow and heal even in the midst of pain and suffering that cannot be removed. They can grow.